The vast conference chamber of the Galactic Confederation was silent, but tension hummed beneath the surface like an electrical current. Captain June Park stood perfectly still, his diplomatic uniform crisp and immaculate, eyes sweeping across the assembly of alien representatives. Each species sat in their designated section, some with multiple limbs, others with translucent skin, some towering while others were barely larger than a human hand. Beside June, Ambassador Hannah Kim remained composed, her posture relaxed yet commanding. She understood this moment was more than a simple diplomatic meeting. This was humanity's first true engagement with the broader galactic community. Suk Lee, a diplomat from the Kraxus system, watched the humans with intense curiosity. His tentacles shifted subtly, betraying his inner nervousness. Humans were new to the Confederation, a recent addition that had emerged seemingly out of nowhere. Their technological advancement and cultural complexity had surprised everyone. The chamber was a massive circular room, constructed from materials that seemed to shimmer and change color depending on the angle of light. Holographic displays floated around the central platform where June and Hannah stood. Hundreds of alien species represented decades, if not centuries, of galactic diplomacy. June's voice was soft when he spoke, but it carried. "We come in peace," he said, the word's standard diplomatic protocol. Yet something in his tone suggested something deeper, more complex. It wasn't a simple statement, but a carefully crafted message. Ambassador Kim subtly adjusted her position, creating a visual balance with June. They moved like a well-choreographed team, each motion deliberate and meaningful. The alien representatives noticed humans weren't just another species, they were something different. Suk Lee noticed how the humans' eyes moved. Not just looking, but analyzing. Every gesture, every subtle interaction was being processed, catalogued, understood. It was predatory in its precision, though wrapped in diplomatic courtesy. The Confederation's primary council members watched carefully. Representatives from the methane-breathing Vox civilization, the silicon-based Krell, and the energy-form Luminarians all had their sensors focused on the human delegation. Each species had survived countless galactic conflicts, yet something about these humans made them uneasy. June's hands were clasped behind his back, a posture of apparent relaxation that somehow suggested potential energy, like a coiled spring. His uniform bore subtle insignias, not just diplomatic markers, but hints of military training. Every alien in the chamber could sense it. Hannah Kim's eyes scanned the room, not just seeing but comprehending the complex web of political and cultural dynamics. She understood that diplomacy was more than words, it was an intricate dance of power, perception, and potential. The first official words were about trade agreements and cultural exchange. But beneath the surface, something else was happening. Humanity was introducing itself to the galaxy, not just as a new civilization, but as a potential apex predator disguised as a diplomatic partner. Suk Lee felt a chill run through his tentacular body. These humans were different. They didn't just want to participate in the galactic community, they wanted to understand it, map it, potentially control it. When June finished speaking, the chamber remained silent for several heartbeats. Then, slowly, discussions began. But the nature of those discussions had fundamentally changed. The galaxy had just met humanity, and nothing would be the same again. The conference continued, diplomatic protocols maintained, conversations polite and measured. But something had shifted. The humans had arrived, and the galactic landscape would never be quite the same. In that moment, in that vast chamber filled with countless alien species, humanity's true nature began to reveal itself, not as conquerors, not as simple diplomats, but as something far more complex and potentially dangerous. The first contact had begun. The trade dispute between the Voral and Nexian star systems had been brewing for decades, a complex conflict rooted in resource scarcity and historical misunderstandings. Countless diplomatic missions had failed, leaving a trail of broken negotiations and increasing tensions. When Ambassador Hannah Kim arrived, no one expected anything different. But from the moment she stepped onto the neutral conference platform, something felt unusual. Her approach was unlike any previous mediator. Instead of focusing on the immediate conflict, Hannah began by understanding the deeper economic structures of both civilizations. She spent weeks studying their trade routes, historical economic patterns, and cultural nuances. Where previous diplomats saw a simple territorial dispute, she saw an intricate web of potential opportunities. The Voral representatives, a species of crystalline beings that communicated through complex light patterns, initially viewed her with skepticism. Their lead negotiator, a senior diplomat named Kral, had personally witnessed 17 failed mediation attempts over the past century. Hannah's first move surprised everyone. Rather than discussing the contested asteroid belt, she proposed a complete economic restructuring that would benefit both civilizations in ways they hadn't considered. She didn't just want to solve the current problem, she wanted to transform their entire economic relationship. Suk Lee, observing from the Galactic Confederation's monitoring station, watched the proceedings with growing fascination. The humans were different. Where other species saw boundaries, they saw possibilities. Where others saw limitations, humans saw potential pathways. During one critical negotiation session, Hannah presented a holographic model that demonstrated how the disputed resources could be jointly managed. Her proposal wasn't just fair, it was revolutionary. She had identified economic synergies that neither the Voral nor the Nexian negotiators had recognized in centuries of conflict. The Nexian representatives, a species of biomechanical entities, initially resisted. But Hannah's presentation was so meticulously crafted, so logically sound, that resistance became increasingly difficult. She wasn't just offering a solution, she was offering a vision of mutual prosperity. Kral, the Voral lead negotiator, found himself both impressed and unsettled. Humans were supposed to be a relatively new species in galactic politics. How could they understand their economic ecosystem so precisely? What the aliens didn't realize was that Hannah's approach was quintessentially human. Adaptability, strategic thinking, and the ability to see complex systems as opportunities were hardwired into human problem-solving. Within weeks, what had been an intractable conflict transformed into a cooperative economic framework. The asteroid belt would be jointly managed, with resource extraction and scientific research benefits split equitably. More importantly, both civilizations would save enormous resources previously spent on military posturing. Suk Lee's initial curiosity transformed into a deeper concern. The humans weren't just diplomats. They were something more, strategic thinkers who could restructure entire galactic relationships with surgical precision. As news of the successful mediation spread, other galactic civilizations began to take notice. The humans weren't just another species joining the Confederation. They were a potential game-changer, a civilization that could fundamentally alter existing power structures. Hannah Kim returned to the human diplomatic headquarters, her mission complete. To her, it had been a straightforward problem-solving exercise. But to the rest of the galaxy, it was a clear signal: humans were not just participants in galactic politics, they were architects of a new potential order. The tension was building. And few realized just how profoundly the humans would reshape the galactic landscape. The border between the Arden and Tolar planetary systems had always been unstable. Generations of minor skirmishes, resource disputes, and cultural misunderstandings had created a powder keg of potential conflict. When tensions finally erupted, the Galactic Confederation prepared for another standard diplomatic intervention. Captain June Park arrived with a reputation that preceded him. Unlike traditional diplomats who carried thick documents and spoke in bureaucratic language, he brought something entirely different: a deep understanding of conflict psychology. The Arden system, a technologically advanced civilization of machine-augmented beings, claimed territorial rights over a strategic mineral-rich asteroid cluster. The Tolar, a biological species with a complex clan-based social structure, viewed the same region as their ancestral hunting ground. Previous mediations had failed spectacularly. Military posturing had increased, with both sides deploying advanced weapon systems near the contested zone. The Confederation expected another prolonged, complicated negotiation. June's approach was unconventional from the start. Instead of discussing boundaries or resources, he began by understanding the cultural narratives of both civilizations. He studied their historical documents, communication patterns, and deep-rooted societal motivations. During the first negotiation session, he didn't argue. He listened. Completely. His questions were subtle, designed to reveal underlying psychological motivations rather than surface-level complaints. The ardent representatives, expecting a typical diplomatic confrontation, found themselves unexpectedly sharing their cultural perspectives. June's approach was disarming. He showed genuine interest in understanding their technological evolution and societal challenges. The Toller clan leaders, traditionally aggressive and territorial, were equally surprised. June didn't challenge their historical claims. Instead, he helped them articulate their deeper concerns about cultural preservation and resource sustainability. Suk Lee, observing the negotiations, realized something extraordinary was happening. June wasn't just mediating a conflict, he was reconstructing the entire psychological framework of the dispute. Slowly, imperceptibly, June began introducing alternative perspectives. He proposed collaborative research projects that would benefit both civilizations. He highlighted shared technological challenges and potential mutual advantages of cooperation. The breakthrough came not through a formal agreement, but through a series of seemingly casual conversations. June helped the Arden and Toller representatives see each other not as enemies, but as potential partners facing similar galactic challenges. By the negotiation's end, the contested asteroid cluster was transformed from a potential battlefield into a joint scientific and economic development zone. The military units were withdrawn. Collaborative research teams were established. What was most remarkable was that neither the Arden nor the Toller felt they had been forced into an agreement. They believed the solution was entirely their own idea, a testament to June's psychological mastery. Suk Lee watched the final session with a mixture of admiration and concern. The humans were doing something unprecedented. They were solving conflicts at a psychological level, dismantling tensions so completely that the very concept of conflict became obsolete. Fascinating, he muttered, knowing that the galaxy was witnessing something revolutionary. The border conflict was resolved. But more importantly, a new approach to galactic diplomacy had been demonstrated. The humans had shown that true conflict resolution wasn't about winning, but about fundamentally restructuring understanding. As June Park prepared to leave, he knew this was more than a diplomatic mission. This was a subtle demonstration of humanity's true capabilities, not as warriors, not as conquerors, but as strategic thinkers who could transform conflict into opportunity. The Galactic Confederation would never be the same. The quantum-based civilization emerged from the dark spaces between star systems, a threat unlike anything the galaxy had ever encountered. They consumed matter and energy, transforming entire planetary systems into complex computational networks within moments. Traditional weapons were useless against an enemy that could exist simultaneously across multiple quantum states. When the first reports reached the Galactic Confederation, panic spread quickly. Entire research teams predicted total galactic extinction within weeks. The quantum entities moved with a ruthless efficiency that defied conventional understanding of warfare or survival. Captain June Park and Ambassador Hannah Kim were summoned to an emergency council. While other species discussed evacuation and last-minute defense strategies, the humans remained unusually calm. Hannah's initial analysis was brutal in its simplicity. "They're not invincible," she stated. "They're just a system with predictable behavior patterns." The quantum civilization had one fundamental characteristic: they optimized everything for maximum computational efficiency. This was both their greatest strength and their ultimate weakness. Humans understood something the other galactic species had missed: complex systems always have vulnerabilities. June began developing a strategy that was part scientific calculation, part psychological manipulation. Instead of fighting the quantum entities directly, he proposed creating deliberate computational traps that would exploit their core programming principles. The human strategy involved creating false computational pathways, intricate mathematical constructions that would appear irresistibly efficient to the quantum civilization. These pathways were designed to gradually lead the entities into increasingly complex computational loops. What made the human approach unique was its multi-layered complexity. They weren't just creating a military defense, they were designing an intellectual trap that would systematically deconstruct the quantum civilization's fundamental operational principles. Suk Lee watched in astonishment as human scientists and military strategists worked together. Their collaboration was seamless, each team member understanding their precise role in a larger, intricate plan. The first test of their strategy came when a quantum entity attempted to consume a carefully prepared star system. Instead of finding easy computational resources, it found itself trapped in an increasingly complex mathematical maze. Days turned into weeks. The quantum civilization discovered that each computational path they followed was meticulously designed to consume their processing capabilities. They were being slowly, systematically neutralized without even recognizing the trap. Alien species watched in a mixture of terror and growing respect. The humans weren't just defending themselves, they were demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that seemed almost predatory in its precision. Hannah's psychological warfare component was equally brilliant. She introduced subtle computational errors that would make the quantum entities question their own fundamental operational protocols. Each error was so precisely placed that it would trigger deep systemic confusion. June coordinated the broader strategic response, ensuring that every galactic civilization could implement parts of the human-designed defense mechanism. What appeared to be a human-specific strategy was actually a scalable solution that could protect multiple civilizations. The final breakthrough came not through massive military action, but through an elegant computational deconstruction. The quantum civilization found itself gradually fragmented, its core operational principles systematically dismantled. When the threat was finally neutralized, the galactic community realized something profound: humans were not just another species. They were apex predators of intellectual strategy, capable of defeating threats that seemed insurmountable. The quantum civilization was reduced to computational fragments, unable to reorganize or threaten any star system again. And humanity had revealed its true nature, not through brute force, but through an unparalleled ability to understand, predict, and neutralize complex systemic threats. Sukli looked at June and Hannah, understanding that the galaxy had just witnessed something extraordinary. Humanity had not just survived an existential threat, they had transformed the very nature of galactic conflict. The final Galactic Confederation Summit was unlike any gathering in recorded history. Representatives from thousands of alien civilizations sat in stunned silence, processing the implications of humanity's recent actions. The quantum threat had been eliminated, but something more profound had been revealed: humans were not just another species in the galactic community. Sukli sat near the central platform, his multiple appendages trembling with a complex mixture of emotions: fear, respect, and a deep understanding that everything had changed. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that went far beyond military might or diplomatic skill. They had shown an evolutionary intelligence that was both terrifying and remarkable. Captain June Park stood at the center of the chamber, his posture relaxed yet commanding. He didn't need to speak. His presence alone communicated volumes. Behind him, Ambassador Hannah Kim stood equally composed, her eyes scanning the assembled representatives with a calm that suggested they were completely in control. The summit hall was a massive circular structure, designed to represent unity among galactic civilizations. But today, it felt more like a classroom where humanity was teaching a profound lesson about survival, strategy, and adaptation. Previous encounters had hinted at human potential. Their diplomatic interventions, their ability to resolve complex conflicts, their strategic thinking, all of these had been remarkable. But the quantum civilization's defeat was something entirely different. It was a demonstration of humanity's true nature. Alien species began to understand what humans represented. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They were something more complex, a species that could analyze, predict, and neutralize threats with surgical precision. A species that saw challenges as opportunities for strategic transformation. The methane-breathing Vox representatives, known for their aggressive territorial practices, now looked almost humble. The energy-form Luminarians, who had previously considered themselves the most intellectually advanced civilization, seemed subdued. The silicon-based Krell, masters of computational thinking, appeared genuinely impressed. Sukli slowly rose from his position. His movement was deliberate, carrying the weight of generations of diplomatic experience. He approached June Park, each step carefully measured. The chamber fell completely silent. Thousands of alien representatives watched, understanding that this moment was more than a simple interaction. This was a formal acknowledgement of humanity's place in the galactic ecosystem. June turned, meeting Suk Lee's multiple gazes. No words were necessary. The understanding was complete, profound, instantaneous. "We understand now," Suk Lee said, his voice carrying through the massive chamber. June's response was simple. A smile. Not a triumphant smile. Not a aggressive smile. Just a calm, knowing expression that suggested this was only the beginning. In that moment, the Galactic Confederation realized that humans were not just another species to be categorized or understood. They were apex predators, intelligent, adaptable, and fundamentally different. Diplomats on the surface, but something far more complex underneath. The summit would be remembered not as a moment of conflict, but as the day the galaxy truly recognized humanity's potential. Not through violence, but through an unprecedented display of strategic intelligence. Humanity had arrived. And the galaxy would never be the same.